Welcome to the Misty Stories channel, where the night breathes more quietly, and stories, slowly and unhurriedly, hold your hand and accompany you to the edge of sleep. If tonight, your mind is tired, if your day has been long, or if you just want a few minutes, get away from the hustle and bustle of You've come to the right place. Tonight, I want to take you to the heart of a forest that is, most nights, shrouded in fog. A peaceful forest, silent, and far from any extraneous noise. Beyond the busy roads, where the lights of cars are no longer visible, a forest begins with nights like no other. The trees are tall, so tall that when the wind gently blows through their branches, the sounds are like ancient whispers. The forest floor is often damp, and the fog, like a soft blanket, covers everything. If you walk slowly, the rustling of leaves beneath your feet is very faint, as if the forest itself does not want the silence of the night to be broken. In the heart of this forest, not far from a narrow dirt path, there is a small hut, a wooden hut, old, but warm. The windows are not large, but at night a soft yellow light shines out of one of them. A light that appears in the fog, like a safe spot. This hut is the home of a man who has been the guardian of this forest for years. He is not a talkative person. Few people have heard his voice. During the day, he spends most of his time in silence. But at night, when the forest wakes, when the mist slowly rises, and when the moon, half hidden behind the clouds, he is awake. The man, every night at about the same time, rises from the wooden chair by the window. He picks up his old lantern, a lantern whose glass is a bit cloudy but still gives a warm, steady light. He slowly opens the door of the hut, so quietly that his voice is lost in the forest, and he steps into the mist. He knows well where to step, which tree root is sticking out of the ground, which stone is lying by the path. This forest is no stranger to him. He has spent his nights here for years, so many nights. So much silence, so much fog, that the forest has become a part of his being. The man, holding the lantern a little ahead, walks slowly. The lantern's light falls on the mist and illuminates the narrow path softly and dimly. Sometimes an owl can be heard in the distance. Sometimes the slow movement of a small animal in the bushes. But none of it is unfamiliar or frightening. Everything is in its place. The night in this forest, for someone who is not in a hurry, is very quiet. And the man is never in a hurry. He is the night guard, not to control, not to guard against danger, but to be present in silence. The forest many years ago, not to escape, not to hide, just to calm down. He always said that some people lose their voice in the hustle and bustle of the city, and he was one of those people. The first few nights he slept in this cabin. The sounds of the forest were strange to him. The sound of the wind as it passed through the branches, the sound of invisible footsteps on wet leaves, and sometimes the distant sound of an unseen animal. But as time passed, all these sounds became part of the night, like breathing, like the slow beat of a heart. His life was simple. He would wake up in the mornings to the pale sunlight breaking through the fog. He would brew his tea slowly on the same old stove, and he would look at the forest for hours, without any hurry. But at night, nights had a different meaning for him. Night was a time when everything slowed down. No one expected anything. No voices sought attention. It was just him and the forest. He was a guard, but not the kind of guard who gave orders or watched for danger. His guard was like watching, making sure everything was in place. Sometimes he would stand by the hut. He would put the lantern on the ground and stare at the fog that moved slowly. The fog was not something scary to him. On the contrary, the fog always reminded him that not everything had to be clear and bright. He believed that life is like this forest. You can't always see the whole path, but if you walk slowly, if you don't rush, the path will find itself. At night, sometimes he would sit on a wooden chair in front of the hut. He would place the lantern at his feet and look at its light as it slowly flickered. In those moments, time seemed to stretch. The minutes became longer, and his mind gradually lighter. If anyone saw him from afar, they would think he was alone. But the man never felt lonely. The forest was always by his side. The nights in this forest are the same, not out of tedious repetition, but out of peace. The man knew this well. Every night, at about an hour, he would take out his lantern, the same old lantern with slightly frosted glass and a light that never got brighter. He believed hard light was not suitable for the night. Night wants a soft light. He would open the door slowly. Cool air would slowly enter the hut. The smell of wet wood, the smell of dirt, and the smell of fog all spread through the air together. He would step out and quietly close the door behind him. Not so as not to wake anyone, but to respect the silence. His nightly path was always almost the same. First, he would stand by the old tree. He would run his hand over its rough bark. Then, a few steps ahead, where the ground sloped slightly. He would pause, and then he would continue on his way. The sound of his footsteps would be lost in the fog. It was as if the forest was swallowing him, not to disappear, but to become one with him. Sometimes the distant hoot of an owl would softly break the silence. Sometimes a soft rustle in the bushes would announce the passing of a small animal. But the man never returned. Everything was familiar. He had learned to accept the night as it was, not seeking meaning, not seeking coincidence, just being. Every few steps, he would stop, take a deep breath, and raise the lantern a little. The light would fall on the fog, and the fog would slowly move away. Not completely, just enough to find a way. He thought to himself, I wish people could see as much of the way in life. Not everything, just the next step. The nights sometimes seemed longer, but he never looked at the clock. Time had a different meaning here. If he got tired, he would sit on a tree stump. He would put the lantern beside him and listen to his breathing, inhaling and exhaling smoothly, regularly. The forest was breathing with him. The wind was blowing more slowly. The branches were shaking less, as if everything wanted to go to sleep. And he died, a faint smile on his lips. He knew that this night was as safe as any other night. Slowly the night gets heavier, not from tiredness, but from peace. The man walks less. He stands more. He stands and listens. He listens to the sound of his breaths, which have become quieter, inhaling and exhaling, each breath slower than the previous one. The forest is no longer just around him. The forest is inside him. He feels invisible roots connecting his feet to the ground, like trees, solid, calm, unhurried. The mist sits on his shoulders, not cold, not heavy, like a light blanket at night. He keeps his eyes half closed, not to sleep, but to see less, because some things feel calmer when they are seen less. The lantern light now seems much softer, as if the light itself is tired and wants to rest. The man puts the lantern beside a flat rock. He sits down. He rests his hands on his knees. He has nothing else to do. No guard, no path, no duty, just being. Being in this moment, in this night, in this silence. If you listen, you can hear the sound of silence. A sound very soft. This is the sound that comes with sleep. The man smiles very faintly. Not from joy, not from thought, just from peace. He knows the forest stays awake. He knows that not everything needs to be controlled. That's why his eyelids get heavier. Not in a hurry, not suddenly, slowly, very slowly. And even if his eyes close for a few moments, the forest is still beside him. The night demands nothing from you anymore. No attention, no thought, no effort. Everything is enough just as it is. The man sits there, neither awake nor asleep, somewhere in between. The lantern's light gradually grows weaker, not suddenly, not hastily, as if the light itself had decided to calm down. The fog is not thicker, it is just closer, like a soft curtain drawn over the world. The sounds become less, or perhaps the mind no longer seeks them. If the eyes are closed, nothing is lost. The forest is still there. The night still continues. The man no longer moves, not out of tiredness, but out of certainty. The certainty that he doesn't have to stay awake. The wind, if it blows, it's calm. The trees, if it moves, very little. Everything is at rest. And you, if you like, you can let yourself hear. Breath, calm, and long, there is no end. Only night and sleep.